Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining me tonight. It's Matt Staffiero on The Breakdown. We're here to talk some Denver Broncos head coaching candidates. As most of you seen, you guys probably saw my series of 1 through 5 going live on YouTube. Unfortunately, life happens, and I was not able to get everything done all on the YouTube broadcast. I'm going to do the live. I'm going to break down the last 5 here. I got my little kid here to be the background dancer, cheerleading dad as she goes on. So if you see her popping around, wave hi. Anyways, guys, thanks for joining me tonight. I wouldn't be here tonight if I didn't have my sponsor today in Willow Seasonings and Blends. They're awesome. Please check them out at willowseasoningsandblends.com. Or sorry, willowseasonings.com. All righty. Anyways, diving into everything. All right. First name on the docket. Wednesday interviews. Gerard Mayo, inside linebacker for the New England Patriots. Inside linebacker coach. For the New England Patriots. He was a longtime linebacker for the Patriots. Dude's got very little experience. He was the quickest research assignment I had. Been a linebacker coach since 2019, still there. The one thing, there's a video that's going around on Gerard Mayo. I don't know if any of you guys have been able to, really see it. It talks about his leadership, kind of what he did after football. He took a few years away from football, kind of went into the business executive type world. And it was kind of a funny story that Bill Belichick and Bill's wife actually kept calling until he picked up his phone to make a return to football. So he's really hard to break down and pinpoint if he's a legitimate chance or has a legitimate chance of being a head coach right now, with it being so green. I mean, we've seen what's happened with the Belichick coaching tree. Let's look at Matt Patricia going to Detroit, Brian Flores to Miami. And then, God forbid we bring up Josh McDaniels, but we're going to have to. We're going to have to talk Josh McDaniels. 3 kind of coaches who had a pretty rough start to their head coaching career coming from that Belichick tree. One thing we want to kind of dive back into, George Paton was highlighting that he didn't care if this head coach had a ton of experience. He didn't care if it was an offensive or defensive mind. He didn't care if it was a play call, if he had a bit of play calling experience. He just wanted leadership, and that's the one thing that Gerard Mayo can check the box off on. Gerard Mayo was a leader of men on the football field. He was an inside linebacker. He had the green dot on the helmet. This is where it gets tough for me. Do I think he's a legitimate head coaching candidate? And at this point, I really don't. I think he's brought in maybe as kind of like what we did with the Vance Joseph thing, back when he was in Miami's defensive coordinator a couple years into his kind of defensive career. I just think it was more of a kind of let's see what this kid's got. Let's see if he can blow me away type of deal. And unfortunately, I just think that at this stage of his career, it's just too early for him to be a head coach. Moving on to the name of the hour, another Wednesday interview. John Gannon, defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. This kid, he's got a ton of experience, more than what I thought he initially had. He was a Falcons defensive quality control coach from 2007. He was a Titans defensive quality control coach from 2012 to 2013. It's a kind of unknown what was going on between 2007 and 2012. It didn't really dive too much into what he was doing, but he took some time away from football, came back to go with the Titans after that, got his first real coaching job as an assistant defensive backs coach in Minnesota, where he got to work with now Denver Broncos GM George Paton. He's got a ton of work under Mike Zimmer. So he was there from 2014 to 2017. Then he went over to Indianapolis as a defensive backs coach from 2018 to 2020. And now he's with Philadelphia, where he's been the defensive coordinator for 1 year. What's really interesting about this name is within the last hour, Benjamin Albright, multiple sources. I don't quote Wikipedia often, but the interesting thing with Wikipedia right now is Wikipedia has John Gannon as the Houston Texans' next head coach. So maybe somebody's got some more insight than I do. But there's one thing that was rumored yesterday that he's been interviewing very, very well, including here in Denver. Benjamin Albright just sent out a tweet that people are sleeping on John Gannon, hashtag Texans, hashtag Broncos. We all know who's been rumored to be the favorite here since this entire thing went down with Vic Fangio and Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Well, rumors came out, and it's the rumor mill right now. We don't know what's what. People are trying to say this, but there were some rumors that came out that said Dan Quinn's interview wasn't as strong as people had hoped for. There was some legitimate concerns with what Dan Quinn could do moving forward. We've seen what happened with Kyle Shanahan after Kyle left. He wasn't able to get an offensive coordinator to be able to use a top 5 quarterback at that time in Matt Ryan. He wasn't able to get a guy who could utilize weapons like Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones and Todd Gurley. So we'll kind of circle back to Dan Quinn, but going back to John Gannon, this kid is extremely young. He's been one of my favorite guys. I've been talking to my guys over here at Rocky Mountain Sports Network for like the last probably week since his name popped up on the list. I'm like, this kid's a name to watch. I'm telling you, he's so green in it. He's got experience. He's got experience. He's got experience with Peyton. The one thing that I like about him is that, I hate to use this as a reference because this is like a Hall of Fame reference that I'm going to use. But go back to Pittsburgh all those years ago. Mike Tomlin, barely green, is getting his feet wet as a defensive play caller. But Pittsburgh liked what he did. He interviewed strong. So what they do, they found him they kept coordinators around that would be a good support system for him while he learned to be a head coach, not a defensive play caller, not an offensive play caller. They allowed Mike Tomlin to become a leader of men, allowed them to become the leader of the coaching staff. One thing that we've heard Vic Fangio failed to do. Vic was just the team guy. He could relate with the players, but he did a terrible job in maintaining his relationships with his coaches and holding them accountable. So you bring this young kid in, you go get him a Wink Martindale that just got cut from Baltimore. You go and get him a Greg Olsen from the Las Vegas Raiders, great offensive coordinator. Maybe you take a flyer on a James Urban. The one thing that's been a problem here in Denver is we haven't been able to identify a guy who's willing to work with Drew Lock or been able to create a development track. So it's going to be interesting to see if we could find a guy that Gannon could bring in here to work with said quarterback, whether it's Kenny Pickett, whether it's Drew Lock, or whether it is everybody's favorite Aaron Rodgers. But that's a little bit on John Gannon. So let's dive into Thursday's interviews really quick. All right, I'm going to take a deep breath because I've been going for a minute. All right, so starting Thursday, they started their interviews off with Rams offensive coordinator, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell, I heard an interview yesterday on 104.3 The Fan talking about his experience. Jordan Rodriguez over from, I believe it is the LA Times. They highlighted that a lot of teams are intrigued by O'Connell's ability to work with young quarterbacks. So he's been around for a minute. He started off as the Browns quarterback coach in 15. Kind of had a weird assignment in San Francisco, as it just says literally special project. So I'm not exactly sure what a special project consists of. But then he went over to Washington, where he kind of crossed paths with McVay a little bit. He was a quarterback coach, and passing game coordinator, and then eventually offensive coordinator. Finally ending his kind of tenure right here in Los Angeles in 2019 as the offensive coordinator with Sean McVay. So a lot of people are kind of turned off, but when they hear the name Kevin O'Connell. But he's another candidate that's been rumored to interview very, very well lately. They get nervous because they hear Sean McVay, and right away when they hear Sean McVay, they're like, well, what does this guy do? What is, if McVay's the play caller, McVay's the mind behind the offense, McVay's the leader of this team, what's Kevin O'Connell do? So Kevin O'Connell's role in this kind of offensive coordinator / passing game type coordinator role is essentially he's scripting out those first 15 plays every game. He's scripting out the first 15 plays at halftime. Those are when you see the majority of teams really put the hurt on teams. That's when the everything's going right. They got everything going and it should be flowing right. That is completely his responsibility. So he has a major part in the construction of this offense. Give me one sec, guys. Kids, man, I'm telling you, this is what happens when mom's at work and dad's like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a podcaster." But it lets me be humble, guys. It's a little bit different than what you see everywhere else. I like to include them in my show for sure. We got a comment in here. First one, or no, second one. We got, hey there, Broncos country. Absolutely. Hey, Dave Glassman. Thanks for joining me tonight. Once again, if you hear the kids hopping around, I apologize, guys. I will do my best to minimize their noise. Anyways, going back to Kevin O'Connell. So he works hand in hand with McVay to script those first 15 plays at each half. He's working hard. He's got a ton of development skills. I mean, even Matt Stafford has highlighted how much he's helped him, even since coming here. Matt Stafford's multi-year veteran who's been a starting quarterback in the league since day one. So if this guy can come in here and work with Matt Stafford, I'm confident that he can come in here and work with an Aaron Rodgers, that he can come in here and work with a Drew Lock, that he can come in here and work with a Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, Bailey Zapp. Take your pick, whoever you want. So the big thing is, does he check the box on leadership? And I think that's where it's a little unproven. I think he's a little green there. This is how much say does he have when McVay's around? Does he control that locker room? Does he have those abilities? From what he's said what's been told from us in his interview, he does possess those qualities. Some people are going out on the limb to say this guy's number 2 on the list. And, with that tweet from Albright, has that changed? Has Gannon possibly uprooted Kevin O'Connell as number 2? I don't know. Lot to dive into there. We're just going to keep going through these candidates kind of quickly. Then we'll do a little bit more breakdown on him. Brian Callahan, Cincinnati Bengals offensive coordinator. So I will be the first to say this is my favorite guy on the list, and I'll kind of explain why after I go through his coaching history. So he started off here in Denver. He was a coach here in Denver as he was just a coaching assistant in 2010, went to quality control coach in 2011, got promoted to offensive assistant in 2013, and stayed here through the Super Bowl. So he's essentially here pre-Manning. So he dealt with the whole Tebow drama and decided he felt confident enough to stick with the Broncos. Got to work with Peyton Manning. What's really cool about Peyton, after he got to work with Peyton Manning, he went to Detroit. Got to work with Matthew Stafford. He was there till 2017. After that, he went to Vegas to work with Derek Carr. And now he's here with the Cincinnati Bengals as the offensive coordinator, and he's working with Joe Burrow. So what really intrigues me about Brian Callahan is that he's had the ability to work with big names, Manning, Stafford, Carr, guys who've already been developed. They're all pros. They're telling you how they want it when they want it, and it's their job to get it to where it needs to be. And he's been able to handle those big personalities. So what that tells me is if we go and snag Aaron Rodgers, this guy's going to be able to have the personality to be able to maintain and try to, I guess, rein in Aaron Rodgers' bombastic personality. I mean, we do know Aaron's got that personality. We've seen it in press conferences recently. If they go get a Jimmy G, if they go get a Kirk Cousins, this is a guy that's going to be able to be the behind the scenes and really be able to mesh well with them, I think. Switch it over to development of a rookie and Joe Burrow. Granted, how much development did Joey B need to be in the first pick in the draft, yada, yada. He's still a rookie. The kid needed to be developed. He needed to be groomed, and he needed to be taught what this level looks like. The NFL speed, the speed of the NFL is a lot faster than what it is in college. So anyways, he's got a ton of development skills. This kid's just been around the block, but the same factors we just talked about with Kevin O'Connell. What is the leadership like? How much say does he have with Zach Taylor in there? Both of the, also technically all three of these guys that we're kind of highlighting, we talk Zach Taylor, we talk Brian Callahan, we talk Kevin O'Connell. The one common thing they have is Sean McVay. One thing that any coach that's come from this McVay tree has been successful. So is that possibly a benefactor for the Broncos looking at Kevin O'Connell, Brian Callahan? That's kind of to be determined. Real quick, moving on to the last one. This is my least favorite name on the list and the final candidate to break down. Here it is. Oh, and it makes me feel bad because this guy's got ties to home. So I'm a Denver native. I mean, this is where I grew up. I watched this guy. And my whole life I seen him come back to see you. And this is where it comes down to. Coach Eric Bieniemy. And this guy's been around the block, a ton of experience. Running back coach at CAU from 2001 to 2002. Was UCLA running back coach till 2005. Came to the NFL, Vikings RB coach to 2009. Got promoted to assistant head coach in 2010 in Minnesota. Went back to CU as the offensive coordinator. Kind of fizzled out there. Ultimately ending up back in Kansas City, one of our arch rivals here, as the RB coach from 2013 to 2017. Finally is landing that offensive coordinator role in 2018, where he's remained. So we all know Eric Bieniemy. There was some legal stuff back here in Colorado, back when he was a player, and nobody really knows why this guy hasn't gotten a shot yet. He's been through numerous interviews, tons and tons and tons of interviews, but he just hasn't been able to seal the deal. Is it that, is he like me? Does he got, interview anxiety? Does he just panic and can't get it out right? Is it the past issues? But I mean, if it was the past issues, why is he getting so many interviews? Unfortunately, I think Eric Bieniemy's time as a head coach and the opportunity window is essentially closed. If Denver doesn't make a play at him as a legitimate candidate at head coach, I think the window may have shut for Eric Bieniemy to be a head coach in this league, at least for the time being. He, like I said, he's my least favorite. The players love him, they respect him, but I think it comes back down to, can he control a room? Can he do those things? Whose voice does he have a voice in that Kansas City locker room? Can he be the authoritative kind of authoritative coach when he needs to be? And to me, that just doesn't mesh with who he is. So I just don't feel like he checks the leadership box. All right, a couple questions in here real quick, and we'll kind of talk some more head coaching stuff. David Glassman pops in with his ideal situation here in Dan Quinn, McDaniel, and that is McDaniel over from San Francisco, not Josh McDaniels, thank goodness, and the defensive coordinator to be determined. So this is kind of where I have reservations with McDaniel. So it had McDaniel's my favorite head coaching candidate out there. I think this guy is underrated. I think he's overlooked because of his quirky personality. The dude is full of, he's kind of like the nerd guy that builds his Madden team to 99 overall ratings all over. He's developed every single player you can develop, and he's got like the best scheme, and he's got the best jokes. I mean, just the other day he was in an interview where the guy's like Mike, and he's like, who? Like Mike Jones. I mean, that's kind of a newer reference, but like this dude's just cut from a different thread. And I think that scares coaches away. My issue with Mike McDaniel as an offensive coordinator, even if you pluck him, you give him that assistant head coaching title, he comes here, he works with Aaron Rodgers. He comes here, he works with Drew Lock, a rookie, and they see that significant success. There's not going to be any more doubts that this guy's got a legitimate shot at being a head coach in this league. And that scares me. Because then you're going to be either up. If it's Aaron Rodgers, sure, he's going to move on. We're going to be fine. But if this is Drew Lock and Drew Lock shows his development all of a sudden, or if this is Kenny Pickett or whomever you go out and you grab and you rip away and you have to bring in a whole new system again. If this is Drew Lock, that'd be like system number 5 at that point. that he's had to go through because he when Heupel left at Missouri, he got replaced. Then he got here, got to go through Scangarello, had to go through Shermer, had to go through this. This would be the number. That would be the 5th time he's had to change offensive coordinators in 6 years. It just wouldn't be feasible. You would uproot development, and we'd be in who knows what kind of mess at quarterback next season. I mean, we've already been through 6 years of quarterback mess. But yeah, so that's my issue with McDaniel as a coordinator. I wish the Broncos would have given him a shot as being a head coach. That would have been ideal. But unfortunately, it's not. So, kind of going back through the list, just to kind of give you guys a reminder. So there's Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn is not a legitimate candidate. I think he's going to be a head coach in this league one day, but I don't think it's going to be this year. It's just too early. Luke Getsy, in my opinion, I don't even know why he's on an interview list unless it's to interview for an offensive coordinator position. And, rumors a few weeks ago, as I highlighted in my segment going over Luke Getsy, is he's been tied to Dan Quinn. He's been tied to Nathaniel Hackett. Both are legitimate head coaching candidates in this cycle. So Denver was just piquing the interest. That was a Vance Joseph situation where they just wanted to see what this guy could bring to the table, see if he fits with what their philosophy is going to be moving forward, and kind of see if it gave them a little bit maybe of an insight on which head coach they may like better if they're going to go that experience route with a Hackett or a Quinn. So yeah, Luke Getsy, not a legitimate candidate. Nathaniel Hackett, I think part of me wants to say he's a legitimate candidate. I said he was a legitimate candidate in my first kind of take on this. After really looking at the tape, really thinking about it, I don't think he is. I think Nathaniel Hackett's going to be a head coach this year, but it's not going to be here. It's just not possible, not feasible. You go get Nathaniel Hackett, you go get Luke Getsy. What are you doing? You're throwing essentially every single thing you have into this pipe dream that Aaron Rodgers will be your quarterback in 2022. And I think that's too big of a risk. And talking George Payton and risk, he's a guy who takes calculated risk. I mean, let's go back to the draft last year. He had Micah Parsons. He had Fields. He had Mac Jones. But he went with the guy he felt was the sure thing, the guy who had a clean pass, the guy who wasn't going to come in here and be disruptive. He came in with the guy that could just play. So that's why he went with Patrick Surtain. He took a calculated risk, didn't want to overdraft on a rookie quarterback. And, that's one of the big flaws for me for George Payton. I think that as much as I love Patrick Surtain, I mean, we see what Mac Jones is doing, and a lot of people will highlight, oh, that's a system quarterback. And I get that. But you got to take a flyer. I mean, cornerbacks, they're not a dime a dozen, but you find those guys, you find quality guys later. It happens every single year. You don't find quality quarterbacks in round 2, 3, 4 often. I mean, look what happened last time we took a quarterback in second round, and it's Drew Lock. And most people know I'm the lock flagger here, and I don't share the same optimism that a lot of my counterparts do, or even guys over here in Rocky Mountain Sports Network. I don't share the same optimism on Drew Lock. Do I think he could have been a way better quarterback than what he is right now? Absolutely. And the reason why he's not is because management and coaching staff failed him. They took him as a raw prospect and rushed him out too early. This is exactly why we have to nail this coaching staff this time around. If they have to go this rookie route, they're going to have to find a guy that can grow with this coach. And that's where I think a Nathaniel Hackett, a Luke Getsy get disqualified immediately. Let's go back to what I said. Look at Jordan Love's development. I mean, when we've seen Jordan Love step in for Aaron Rodgers, what do you see? I see a kid that looks just as raw as he did when he came out of college. I see a guy who's made minimal improvements. That's why Green Bay's pounding the table to keep Aaron Rodgers last year, because he's not where he needs to be. Now you're talking to, if I'm Green Bay and I'm thinking about this, I'm losing Getsy, I'm losing Hackett. How the heck can I afford to lose Aaron Rodgers if Jordan Love isn't ready? So it's going to be interesting there. Moving on, now we go back to kind of the meat and potatoes guy, Dan Quinn. So like I kind of highlighted at the beginning of this segment, it was the rumor that he did not interview very well. I don't know how legit those rumors are. Rumor mill's crazy. But if that's true, can George Payton really afford to take a risk on a head coach that, while he got to a Super Bowl, how much of was that on Kyle Shanahan? How much of that was on Matt Ryan, Julio Jones at that time? And, we talk about everyone highlights 28-3. Yeah, that doesn't go on Dan Quinn himself. I won't blame Dan Quinn for the Super Bowl entirely. Shanahan went conservative. Essentially the reason where Dan Quinn's blame comes in is, his defense fell apart and he didn't rein his offensive coordinator in and say, we got to run this ball and waste this clock. they continued to pass it and ended up biting them in the behind. Where my concerns do start to set in with Dan Quinn is that that's not that this is a very common thing with him. Going back to the game that essentially got him fired was the Dallas game. They were up several, I believe it was 14 points, and once again they went conservative. They blew it. Dallas walked them off. He blew multiple leads. There were some time management issues. There were some, player management issues. And after Shanahan left, Quinn didn't really have a chance to fix the offense. He brought in Sarkisian, and Sarkisian did okay, middle of the road. But with a top 5 quarterback, you'd hope your offense would be more than middle of the road. And that's what Matt Ryan was at that time. And I won't even go into the Dirk Coetter years because, it just gets even more rough. So that's where my fear comes in with Dan Quinn. And like Dave Glassman highlighted earlier over here on Facebook, that he would like McDaniel to come in here with Dan Quinn. And that's my concern. When you get McDaniel, well, we've seen what happened when Quinn lost a quality offensive coordinator. He was not able to work with his GM or go into his mixed bag of friends, and was not able to find a guy that could come in and really maximize an offense. And that scares me because that's what Denver's biggest problem is. It's the cohesion and production of this offense. The defense is going to be good. You go get yourself a Mike Zimmer. You go get yourself a Wink Martindale, a Terrell Austin. You pick another name out of the hat that's been rumored to be a quality guy. You're going to get a pretty good production out of this defense. That's another thing. This is a young defense. You're going to have to find someone that can really resonate with these guys. And I do think that's where Dan Quinn is a positive. If there's one thing that Dan Quinn can come in here and do, it's reestablish a culture that's definitely been lacking since Vance Joseph came. That winning culture has gone away. I think he can be a good leader. So, if leadership is indeed truly the main box, then give me Dan Quinn, sure. But I definitely think there has to be some questions raised here on that. We'll talk about his counterpart, Kellen Moore, a little bit too. Well, everyone's kind of all over Kellen Moore right now. We all seen what happened in the final play of the Cowboys playoff game. It was a beautiful call if it was executed correctly, and I think Kellen Moore's catching some unnecessary heat for that. It was a beautiful play call. The Dak slides 5 yards earlier. They got another 6-7 seconds to get the ball. The ref get it spotted, clock it, and they got a way better chance of getting into the end zone. Unfortunately, Dak didn't slide in time. He didn't get the ball to the ref. He set it there, forgot the rules. It just kind of, it fell apart. But I don't think Kellen Moore should be hit for that. However, what that call did show, though, is it shows his inexperience. Kellen Moore is very green. He essentially went from being a backup quarterback to a quarterback coach and then to OC within 2 years. The kid's really, really green. I don't know if Kellen Moore checks that leadership box yet, with him not really having a chance to kind of figure out who he is yet as an offensive coordinator. He hasn't really been around a lot, and I think that's going to be one reason why we may see Kellen Moore not get a head coaching job this cycle. There's some rumors he could be tied to Minnesota. There was a little bit of some rumors here that he interviewed really well, but I just don't know if it's enough to really move the needle here for Denver. So I don't think Kellen Moore is a legitimate candidate this year. And then that brought us to Gerard Mayo, where I said, no, John Gannon, I've already hyped him up. I gave you the Mike Tomlin scenario. This guy's got all the tools. He failed to make some adjustments defensively, but he's still kind of getting his bearings amongst himself. And also you're trying to stop Tom Brady in the playoffs. And there's been numerous defensive coordinators before him, and there'll be numerous defensive coordinators after him that have failed to do that. It's a good possibility we could see one of the best defenses falter this week in Los Angeles. So I'm not going to harp him too much because he didn't make an adjustment to get out of his zone. He's very limited in what he has in that secondary, and he's trying to do his best with what he got. But it's interesting. Like I said, he's been one of my favorite names on the list, and I think it's because you can groom him away from having to be that defensive-minded head coach. I think this is one of the guys on the list where you can really bring in, groom to be a head coach. Let him manage his coaches. Get him some good coordinators. Really build him up. Build this team. We're so stuck, in this revamp stage. Ever since Manning left, John Elway's preached, we're not rebuilding. We're not rebuilding. We're revamping. We're revamping. Yeah, and kind of on the underside, we've seen some rebuilding happening. Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler. Draymond Jones, all those guys, we see those things happening. But, this kind of pursuit of a retread quarterback constantly. We're going to dive into quarterback to wrap up the show. So we'll kind of come back to that. Kevin O'Connell, I think, is a legitimate candidate for this head coaching job. Brian Callahan, I think he's a legitimate head coaching candidate for this coaching job. Like I already said, Eric Bieniemy, no thank you. I don't think it's possible. So now George Paton's got 4 candidates. He's got Dan Quinn, he's got Kevin O'Connell, and he's got Brian Callahan. So where do you go with those 4? Dan Quinn's being tied to New York. He's from New Jersey. Was a Giants fan growing up. They just brought in a successful GM and a shoe-in from Buffalo. So he's got someone that's kind of already got an eye on some local talent there. He's got a guy who's established a winning culture in Buffalo and been part of that. One thing they also got is they got 2 first-round picks. 2 first-round picks in the top 10. If you're Dan Quinn, I don't know how you don't value that. You're the top name on this coaching cycle, according to everybody out there. This is the number 1 guy. If you're looking at New York, I don't get it. It just falls into it. If I'm Dan Quinn, I can't. Denver's not on my list. I'm going home. I'm going to go get me Russ. I'm going to go save Russell. I'm going to give up those 2 first-round picks. And I'm going to get Russell Wilson here, and we're going to take over the easiest division in the NFL in the NFC East. I mean, let's be real. Cowboys, they're good one year, they choke the following. That division's up for grabs every single year. Philadelphia, I mean, we've seen what happened. Jalen Hurts is a limited quarterback. You're a defensive guru. You got a solid defense. There's some solid pieces on that defense there in New York. Heck, maybe you don't want to go after Russ. Maybe Aaron Rodgers is your guy. You got some solid weapons over there. You got Ingram, you got Sharp, you got Kadarius Toney. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley if he could stay healthy. So if I'm Dan Quinn, I'm kind of taking myself off that list. So I'm going to check Quinn off that list. Kevin O'Connell and Brian Callahan comes down to those kind of things. Do I want to go offense or do I want to go with John Gannon? And that's the guy that I have all my if I'm George Paton, that's the guy I know the best. I've seen him. I've worked with him. I've worked with him for 3 years. I've seen what he's capable of. And I got cheerleaders in the background again. But anyways, right now, for me, after I see Albright's tweet, I have a feeling that John Gannon may be your Broncos' next head coach. I'm going to do a coin flip. I think Dan Quinn's out. I'm not going to bet on it, but I think Quinn's going to New York. I think it's going to be a coin flip between Brian Callahan because he's shown the experience of being able to work with both veterans and rookies. But I think it's going to come back down to that he's going to go with someone he ultimately knows. And he knows John Gannon. I think he really wanted Dan Quinn. I think that was the option number 1. But the Giants' opportunity is just too good for him to pass up. So he goes with the guy he knows best and the guy he feels that he can trust to really lead this team. I'm going John Gannon all the way. Now if Houston's getting involved and they're trying to pry him away, I mean, that's going to be a different battle. Are you willing to open the checkbook to keep him out of Houston? I mean, I probably would take millions of dollars less to not go to Houston, but who knows what happens with that. But I truly think Quinn is out. I think Quinn is out on his own accord. I think George Paton's going to offer him a contract, but I think the sentimental value, like Adam Schefter said just yesterday, there's some significant sentimental value to go back home, coach your childhood team. We got Dave Glassman coming in with a comment here. He said, I really like the Quinn McDaniel relationship. It's not personal, just professional. Tie that with Peyton Quinn relationship. Seems like a perfect fit. He follows up with, you really think Peyton would choose New York over Broncos country and his buddy Peyton? Absolutely. A lot of what people don't realize is a lot of it is sentimental. If I was a coach and I got a job offer to go coach my childhood team and I get to go back home and be close to people who are close to me, my friends and things like that, where my roots are. He grew up in New Jersey, right there. Absolutely. The sentimental value comes through it. You look at, there's a couple of other things you got to factor in here. Let's look at the divisions. You got Patrick Mahomes, you got Justin Herbert, you got Derek Carr, and you're sitting in the bottom with Drew Lock and who knows what else you got. You're sitting there when, you got $40 million in cap space, which is great. But if you don't got that big name quarterback or you don't got a plan to fix it, who are you going to bring? Dan Quinn wasn't exactly the greatest at recruiting talent in Atlanta. I mean, granted, that's probably Dimitrov's doing. I mean, he's kind of he was one of the worst GMs, put him in cap purgatory. But, who's coming to Denver? Who, if you're Dan Quinn, who can you bring here? Who's going to want to just come here if you don't got that quarterback situation figured out? If you're in New York, you got a high value pick. You don't have to stay committed to Daniel Jones. You can go get yourself a Kenny Pickett, a Matt Corral. You can go trade those 2 first-round picks and go get yourself an Aaron Rodgers, a Russell Wilson, a Kirk Cousins, a Jimmy G. You have options. And you have that capital there. Draft picks everyone is like, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. But to coaches, it's really about that draft capital. That draft capital is what allows them to build their team for the long run. You go get yourself Russell Wilson and it only cost you 3 first-round picks, 2 this year, 1 next year. You've essentially got away scot-free. You got yourself an all-pro quarterback. You still got a ton of capital left in the second round. And your team's pretty built offensively. I mean, like I just hit it. You got Saquon Barkley if he's healthy. You got Evan Ingram. You got all those weapons. Are they Cortland Sutton? Are they Jerry Jeudy? Are they KJ Hamler? No, Fant? No, they're not. But factor in that it's not that far behind. I mean, Saquon Barkley, when healthy, I'm sorry, I'm going to tell you 9 times out of 10, he's a better running back than Javonte Williams if he can stay healthy. Evan Ingram and Noah Fant, that's about a tie. I mean, Ingram's probably had a little bit better production. Wide receivers is where they take the dip. But I mean, Golladay and Sutton are pretty much equal. I mean, Sharp and Patrick, I mean, you could probably argue are pretty equal. Jerry Jeudy and Tony, I mean, both are underperforming so far in their career. Neither one of them scored a touchdown this year. Yeah, Dave Glassman. Hey, like I said, I'm going out on a limb here. I just have a feeling that the sentimental value. I mean, and then I also think there's another team that has Quinn's interest, Minnesota Vikings. They got a pretty good defense in place. They got some good defensive places in there. I think Mike Zimmer was just checked out. I think that's why we've seen the decline. They got a stellar offense. If I'm Dan Quinn and I can see that, hey, I got capital, I got some money, and I got Kirk Cousins, who's put up tight 5 numbers, if I can just improve this defense, and I'm looking at a division possibly where Aaron Rodgers is no longer there, that division blows wide open. If you're Dan Quinn, a lot of people aren't, you hear all these pros, you hear all these media people talking like, oh, he's not thinking about this. He's a competitor, but at the end of the day, he's got bills to pay. He's got mouths to feed. He's human. He's going to go for you got to think longevity. Where are you going to go that's going to give you the best chance to stay there, be able to support yourself, be able to support your family, and give you the best quality of life? People forget those factors because they look at it as though these are just head coaches, these are athletes. A lot of those factors really matter. So if I'm there and Aaron Rodgers list, NFC North, who do I got? The Lions, the Bears, who are a mess. I'm right there. The Packers with Jordan Love. Hell yeah, I'm going to Minnesota. I'm going to go take them and I'm going to make them the next big thing. I think there's several options that Dan Quinn's got to think about. I do think the Denver Broncos are appealing because they have the ability to go get Aaron Rodgers and more. They do. But the fact of the matter is, but you also got to think, if you're George Payton, can you afford to just go throw all of your eggs in an Aaron Rodgers basket, go get yourself Dan Quinn and end up with Luke Getsy, miss out on Aaron Rodgers and get stuck with Kenny Pickett and Luke Getsy, who we've seen the development of Jordan Love be topsy-turvy at best? I mean, these are all things that we have to take out and really factor what's going on here. Dan Quinn paired with the wrong offensive coordinator and missing out on Aaron Rodgers could set the Broncos back another 4 to 5 years. So what if he can come and improve the defense? Vic Fangio did fine with our defense. It's the same situation. I'm not saying that Dan Quinn is anywhere near the level of incompetency as a head coach as Vic Fangio. But what I'm saying is you just done exactly what Denver's done for the last 2 consecutive head coaching searches. You went out, you got a defensive coordinator. You went out, you kind of got a middle of an unknown. You went out and got Rich Scangarello. This is just history repeating itself. Unless you secure the retread quarterback, this is going to end up in a major failure, in my opinion. This is why I'm over it. I'm not in the Aaron Rodgers version. I don't want Aaron Rodgers in Denver. I get it. He opens up a Super Bowl window for you, but then what happens? What happens? You open up that Super Bowl window. You just traded 3 first-round picks and more, possibly 2 players. Rumors right now is it might be 2 first, 2 seconds, and 2 players. And that's just maybe what gets you in the door. If you're Denver, can you really afford that right now? Look at the depth issues. We just look at all the defensive starters we're losing. Alexander Johnson, possibly Josie Jewell, Kareem Jackson, Bryce Callahan, Kyle Fuller. There's a lot of big names that are going out in positions that are opening. Talk about the switching scheme. Dan Quinn is your head coach. He runs a 4-3 front. That's Denver's defense isn't essentially built for that. Jonathan Cooper is a way undersized defensive end. talking about edge, there's not really anyone there that can fill those. There's a couple vacancies. Do we have any coverage linebackers? Not really. So there's going to be, we may see some regression, and that's why that retread veteran quarterback like Rodgers would be so important for Dan Quinn. So if I'm George Paton, I get it. This guy's hot. He's the hottest name out there right now. He's been a head coach, and I got a relationship with him. And I mean, they knew each other back in Miami from 100 years ago. They kind of been friends, but that doesn't mean that they're best friends. We might just be looking at something that's super hyped up. Just like we don't know if Getsy is really Dan Quinn's number one offensive coordinator choice just because they have a connection to Mike McCarthy. We truly don't know. But if I'm George Paton and I know this sale's coming up, I'm also thinking about my career. What's going to give me longevity? If I go out and I take this huge swing on Aaron Rodgers right now, and he comes out, unfortunately suffers an injury, and I'm out three things, three first round picks, all that capital I just said, and he's like, you know what, guys, my body can't take it, and he's done in a year. We just risked everything we have. Aaron Rodgers, as much as I love him as a player, he's a flight risk. Is he really worth the investment? Not knowing there's a commitment. Is it really worth investing 2-year, $100 million extension, fully guaranteed? When you're this team, another thing with Aaron Rodgers, you hear about the him and not being able to really communicate well with youth. Well, the Denver Broncos, one of the youngest teams in the NFL, is he going to come in and fit, or is he going to be able to come in and deal with some of this inexperience? One of the things is what's chased him out of Green Bay. Supposedly, he's mad that his veterans aren't there. John Kuhn, Randall Cobb, Brian Bulaga, all the guys that he likes aren't there because they wanted to replace him with a younger and cheaper option. That's not really Rodgers' style. And the Broncos have built a very good team, but a very young and inexperienced team. Everyone here is pounding the table. Get the Broncos, Aaron Rodgers, their Super Bowl contender. You hear Colin Cowherd say it all the time. Could they be? Yeah, absolutely. But then at the same time, are they really just this quarterback away? And I don't think the Broncos are. I think they're close, but I think it's going to come with the experience. I think they have to get their bearings right. We don't even know who our starting inside linebackers are right now. Right now, we're relying on Jonathan Cooper and Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb, let it be, who can't stay healthy for an entire season, to be our starting edges. Jonathan Cooper, a 7th-round pick who's shined well in a Vic Fangio system. We're going to be relying on a rookie in Caden Stearns to be our starting safety next to Justin Simmons. We're going to be relying on Michael Ojemudia, who's hardly played this year, to come in and be quarterback number 3. There's going to be some serious questions on where these guys are able to step up and whomever this next head coach is going to be able to get them to play to the level Vic did. So that's where some of these concerns I have going this Dan Quinn, Aaron Rodgers pipe dream. Dave's popping in again. What's my take on Deshaun Watson to Denver? Unfortunately, it's highly unlikely. The big thing to watch right now is Brian Flores. Where's Brian Flores go? Right now, Deshaun Watson's been tied to Brian Flores since last year, and that's essentially what's been rumored to get him, fired in Miami. That he didn't want to work with Tua. He wanted Watson, and management said, "No, we're good with Tua." That's a very short, summarized version. There's probably a lot more drama, but I think that's where you keep an eye on. Watson may want to follow Flores wherever he's at, unless goodness forbid, Flores ends up in Houston. I don't know if that would be enough to keep him here. Awesome. There, there was another comment up here. What about Doug Peterson? We're going to talk about Doug Peterson for a second. Doug Peterson, as well as Mike McDaniel, I hit on him earlier. This was 2 huge names that should have been on the Denver Broncos head coaching search, but they weren't. Don't know why. Don't know what the requisites were. One thing obviously experience was not a high one, because if we look at it, the only experienced head coach we have is Dan Quinn. The rest would all be first-year head coaches. So I'm not really sure why he wasn't on the list. Maybe the way things ended in Philly was enough to deter Peyton away from it. Like, I don't know if this guy can work well with a veteran quarterback. We've seen him work really well with Carson Wentz, but I don't know. I think there was just too many red flags for him. Mike McDaniel, same thing. I think it was just red flags that people don't like his personality. I think these exec types are very tied in. They want the guy who's going to button it up and be, all business, no shits and giggles. That's what it is. And that's kind of what every coach on this list kind of gives you that list. Maybe minus Eric Bieniemy. I think he's got more of a bubbly personality. The majority of the guys on this list, the rest of them are pretty much no nonsense guys. They're guys that these suit and tie guys probably want running their team. But hey, I got a couple other things to say. Bring back Will Parks for defense. He's a ball hawk. Will Parks is an interesting name. Will Parks did come back for a short stint with Vic Fangio last year. Unfortunately, it really wasn't a good scheme fit for him, which initially was the right he was released. So I think it just depends on who you're bringing in here and what kind of defensive scheme they're running. Got another comment, DJ Olson, High Hopes podcast over there, based out of Minnesota. They talk NFL stuff. Great group of guys. DJ, thanks for tuning in tonight. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, send them in. Definitely send them in. I've been appreciating Dave and Dennis for all your guys' comments tonight. So, my bad. I'm clicking things when I shouldn't be. But kind of going back to it, like I said, if Quinn is truly out, if Quinn is out and he tells Denver I'm not there, I do think it comes down to John Gannon and Brian Callahan. Because I think the value where Callahan has a little bit more value is just that experience of working with both types of quarterbacks. And I think that may be something the Broncos value. But it could seriously just boil down to who knows George Payton better. And that's going to be John Gannon. I mean, we talk about the relationship with Dan Quinn. John Gannon's one of the only other ones who's got a pretty significant relationship with George Payton. Got another couple of things here. Fuck. Oh, we can't say the F word though. But anyways, yeah. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water here. I'll give you guys about another 15 minutes of me rambling on. Once again, thanks. So my name is Staffiero. This is my show, The Breakdown. I run Rocky Mountain Sports Network. So if this is your first time here, please go to my page, like us. We got tons of stuff, tons of content that come out. We cover more than just football. We got some hockey stuff coming up. We got a Colorado base because we're headquartered in Colorado. But tons and tons of content in there. We're going to be starting a new segment called what is it? Jesus, we just talked about the name today and I'm dropping a ball on it. Essentially, it's our new scouting show. We're going to be breaking it down. David Slade, my co-host over at 4th and 99, is going to be running that for a while. And also, we go live every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain Time to do 4th and 99. We're going to talk tons of head coaching stuff. We're going to talk tons of quarterback stuff. We're going to talk tons of draft stuff, free agency, all that fun stuff as we go into the offseason. And typically we'll do our pre and post games, but unfortunately our beloved Denver Broncos are not in the playoffs. So that is going to be on hold till next season. So that's a little bit about the network. So going back to kind of this whole spiel here, John Gannon, Brian Callahan, I think are options 2 and 3. That may anger Broncos country, but if I had to put my money on a guy I would want out of those two, as much as I like Brian Callahan for all of his experience, I really, really, really respect John Gannon. I think he's just got the leadership skills. I think he's going to be the guy that you can bring in here and like I said, really encourage that go get him a Wink Martindale. Go get him Mike Zimmer. Let Mike Zimmer come in and run that defense he ran in Cincinnati all those years ago before heading to Minnesota. Blitz, blitz, blitz. Bring the heat all day. Let someone else come in and take some of those play calling duties and let this guy just learn how to be a head coach. That's our biggest problem. We bring in these young guys, and they're not even young guys. Everyone's like, oh, it's their first time head coaching. Well, I mean, let's look at Vic Fangio. I mean, the dude's got a dinosaur of a career. I mean, his career is longer than I've been alive. Vance Joseph, same thing, a pretty long track record, both first-time head coaches. But there's probably a reason why they were all these other positions, and it took so long for them to get to the level they were at. Hey, what have we seen lately? Let's look at this list really quick. Brandon Staley, Nick Sirianni, Sean McVay, Zach Taylor. The list can go on and on of these first-time head coaches in this young Kyle Shanahan. These first-time head coaches that are young, they understand the NFL because I mean everyone's like, oh, defensive wins championships. But analyst here Troy Rank said it best: the 2015 Broncos defense wouldn't win you a Super Bowl today. They won't. Because it's not the same. Yeah, defense can win you a game, sure, but it's not the only key to a championship in today's NFL. And today's NFL wants to see 40-40, 41-40 losses. 41-40 wins. They want those points. These guys get it. These guys get that that's the NFL that's today. So take fire on one of these youngins. Go for it. They understand the NFL, not like your Vic Fangio, not like your Vance Joseph, not like Mike Zimmer, not like Dan Quinn. Not saying they can't be successful, but this is kind of where the NFL is going. Take a flyer on these young guys. They get it. A couple questions here. DJ Olson bringing in. Do you find that it's weird Mike Zimmer's not getting any interviews? No, I don't think so. And I think it's by design. I think there's probably been some inquiries, but I think at this point in Mike Zimmer's career, like I said, it felt like he was burnt out towards the end of the Minnesota career. I mean, look at the Kellen Mond answer. Like, he knew he was already going to be, terminated. He knew that what was the writing was on the wall. He was checked out. Are you going to get a look at Kellen Mond? No, because I see him every day. I think his camp declined interviews. I think he's interested in coaching. Maybe he takes a year off. Maybe he comes in as a DC somewhere. Heck, maybe he comes to Denver and their defense gets, same production out of Vic that they got with Vic, and maybe he's back in the coaching circuit next year. But I'm not surprised that he's not in this round. I mean, it's kind of hard to, and teams may be a little weary, that he may not be able to handle it anymore. I mean, Kirk Cousins and that Minnesota offense put up efficient numbers with, many injuries. I mean, no Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook was banged up, offensive line was banged up. I mean, I couldn't even tell you who wide receiver 2 and 3 were outside of, Justin Jefferson. Olabasi, I think, is one. I can't remember the other kid's name. I mean, the defense allowed more points. I mean, the offense definitely was not a problem there. So I think there's a couple deterrents possibly. But I'm not surprised Zimmer's not getting any interviews this round. There is a name that I'm surprised is getting interviews, and that's Jim Caldwell. And he did reach out, and he declined. There it is, Osborne, not Olabasi. He used to be there. See, I think he was a CSU kid. But Caldwell is an interesting one that I think's resurfaced. I mean, he's got a ton of experience, of course, but I mean, we've seen what happened in Indy. Wasn't the greatest product, even though he had arguably one of the best quarterback prospects of all time in Andrew Luck. So I'm not sure, but that's one name that surprised me. So I'm going to kind of break down 2 quick hitter things here. We're going to dive into Broncos quarterback. I've already kind of hit it a little bit, but there's this rumors everywhere and around that it's Aaron Rodgers plan A, it's Russell Wilson plan B, and then tier 2 and Jimmy Garoppolo and Kirk Cousins. I'm here to say that it's great to have a plan and all, but which are any of those 4 are really a realistic possibility in Denver moving forward? And this kind of goes ties right back in that head coach thing. That's why my fears with Dan Quinn. If you don't get him a veteran quarterback, I don't have any faith that he can develop a quarterback. I don't have faith in Luke Getsy to develop a quarterback. What's the cost to obtain Aaron Rodgers? Like I said, 2 first, 2 second, 2 players. If those players are Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant, is it really worth it? If it's Jerry Jeudy and Draymond Jones, is it really worth it? There's so many questions. Is Aaron, rumors out of Green Bay is Aaron Rodgers is happy. I get the national media is feeding it left and right. ESPN, Rodgers still disgruntled. Josini Anderson a couple weeks ago, but from what we hear from local news is that it could be a relationship on the mend. They go out and win the Super Bowl. Why leave? If you go out and win the Super Bowl and that's all you're waiting to check off, why not retire, save your body? You know what I mean? You go look at Russell Wilson. Well, they've already said no, they don't want to trade him. And Russell Wilson isn't really the bad guy. Let's be honest. That's not his personality type. He's a kind of do as you're told type of guy. He's a great leader, but he's not one that goes against the grain. He doesn't want to be seen as the villain. He doesn't got the Aaron Rodgers trait in him. That's not who he is. So unless unless Russell Wilson speaks up and says, I'm done, or Seattle already has something, maybe that ties into New York. Maybe they're like, all right, well, we're going to approach Dan Quinn. We know he likes Russ. We know he's got connections. We know he got 2 picks high in the draft. We could really use some of that. Bring Daniel Jones over here, possibly. Let him toy around with Kenny Pickett for a year. Hey, I'm fine with that. They're about to go into a rebuild. Let's be honest. Seattle's not the top dog in the West and over there in the NFC anymore. They're not better than the Rams. They're definitely not better than the Cardinals. And I mean, the 49ers are a legitimate contender as well. Seattle's in the basement, and it's time to do the rebuild. I don't care if you got DK Metcalf. That's just where they're at. That defense isn't the same. It's not the Legion of Boom anymore. But go drop down to Kirk Cousins. If they go with that veteran head coach, why give up a quarterback who's given you top 5 production several years? You get it. I get you only got a year left on the contract, but why give it up? Especially if you're looking at an NFL where it could be Aaron Rodgers in your division anymore. Vikings with Kirk Cousins is a contender in that, they're winning that North hands down. Then going to Jimmy Garoppolo, same thing. Jimmy Garoppolo has played well in the playoffs. He keeps doing things well. He takes care of the football. Injuries are a huge concern, But at what point, if he goes out, if he goes in and they beat Green Bay this week, what's his price going to be? Is it worth it? Is it worth taking a risk and giving up 2 first-round picks for a guy you don't know can complete a season? Because, I mean, has he completed the season? So, I sit back here and I ask Broncos country to be patient. I get the 4-year window thing with Aaron Rodgers. I respect that. Totally respect that. If I had to go with who I'd want to go in any order, I'd probably go Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. That'd be the way I would address these 4. If I was George Payton, I would not have Rodgers as plan A. I just don't feel that it's feasible. You open up a 4-year window, and everyone's like, oh, well, we did it with Peyton Manning. Great. Yeah, we did it with Peyton Manning, but it was a financial investment. This is a financial investment, and you're giving up a ton of capital. If you don't win a Super Bowl, or if you don't get a Super Bowl and a Super Bowl appearance, people look at you as a laughingstock. It was a failure. Can you really afford that if you're Broncos country? Can you really afford the setback of a 4-year window that essentially didn't get you a Super Bowl? Just because you get Aaron Rodgers doesn't guarantee you a Super Bowl. Let me remind you that, what is he, 0-4 in the NFC Championship since winning his last Super Bowl? It does not guarantee you that you get Aaron Rodgers, you're just magically going to beat Patrick Mahomes every game. You're not going to magically beat Justin Herbert every single time. You're not going to go into New England and win. You're not going to come in here and be able to control the Titans' run game. There's so many questions, and that's why I don't like the risk. So I asked Broncos kind of be patient. We weren't patient with Drew Lock. We rushed him to the field, and I'm not even a Drew Lock supporter. His development was uprooted by poor management, by a terrible coaching regimen, and someone who was just constantly looking for a plug and play. Drew Lock was a raw prospect who needed to be developed, just like the quarterbacks in this draft class. So if that's going and getting us a bridge, or if it is going and getting Jimmy Garoppolo and just dealing with it 1 year, hopefully he's able to make it and keep him lock on the roster, do it. Couple quick things in here. I think the relationship between Zimmer, Peyton Lynch, and Elway may see Cousins or Garoppolo depending on the head coach and the draft capital last. Absolutely, Dennis. I think that's a great point. I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. It's all boils down to that capital is if we look at what capital, like depending on what happens in Minnesota, the less capital of the quarterbacks that it would cost less capital to obtain, in my opinion, would probably be Kirk Cousins. While he's put up top 5 numbers, the wins aren't there. He's got a losing record. He's close to a losing record. I think that would be the easiest one to obtain. Jimmy Garoppolo, it really just depends on what happens this weekend. He comes out there and he kills it. It's going to be interesting. What would be my trade package for Kirk Cousins? That's simple. I would probably do a conditional second. So a 2023 conditional second and a 2022 second. So if Kirk Cousins goes to the playoffs, next year will be a first-round pick. So you should get a first and a second. Affects 2 years, not that big of a deal. You don't make it to playoffs, you gave up a second. You gave 2 second-round picks, which Denver has a multitude of this year. That's what I would. I mean, I don't know if that's enough to move the ticker, but that's the most I'd be willing to give up right now. Like I said, this team is young. They could, getting Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers is going to make or break. You got some really young talent on this team. You got a ton of young talent on this team, and you got a ton of money to make it work. Build this team the right way. I mean, I don't know Broncos country. It was great going through those years with Peyton Manning. Like I said, it was fantastic. But the demise of the Denver Broncos, the loss of the Baldwin way, the walking, commanding, and demanding of excellence from our coaches and our players has shaken me to the core. It's made me the constant disappointment. I mean, in my lifetime, I never thought I'd be able to go and say, well, we're Denver Broncos. We've had the worst collapse from the Super Bowl victory in NFL history. We've missed the playoffs for 6 consecutive years, with 5 of them being losing seasons. So, I mean, 6 of them being losing seasons. Take that back. So, no, 5, because we were 9-7 in 2016. But yeah, so that's one thing I ask. Go take a flyer on a John Gannon, take a flyer on a Brian Callahan, and let's develop this thing the right way. You look at the draft and you see Patrick Mahomes, you see Josh Allen, you see pretty much every quarterback there, Joe Burrow, most of them were drafted. Granted, Tom Brady's an exception. Tom Brady was drafted and he developed into who he is. Ryan Tannehill, let's be real. Is Ryan Tannehill the real reason why the Titans are in the playoffs, or is it the fact that they got a defense that's pretty great and they're able to run the ball and control the clock? Ryan Tannehill is essentially just the guy who's the placeholder. He gets to kind of direct traffic, and then that's a value, and I get that, but I don't think Ryan Tannehill, you put Ryan Tannehill on the Broncos, he's not leading you to a number 1 seed. Let's be real. So look at that. So potentially, yeah, see, I said it's almost a losing record, 59, 59-2 for Kirk Cousins' record here. I was close. I didn't have the numbers. Thank you, Greg, for throwing that stat in there. But that's kind of where it's at. So the last thing I want to do before I hop off, kind of wanted to go through the coaching vacancies and give you my predictions of whom I think is going where out of all of the head coaching vacancies. So I'm going to start off with the Giants, and that is my friend Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn will be the next head coach of the New York Giants. I'm going to go to Chicago next. There's a guy they really liked last year. There's a guy that there's a guy that they've been tied to for several, a couple times here now. They brought him in for a second interview already, and that's Matt Eberflus from Indianapolis, defensive coordinator. That's a questionable hire in me. I think he's a great coach, but you got Justin Fields you got to develop. So the coordinator is going to be a huge thing there. So I'm going to go Eberflus in Chicago. And then I'm going to head on over to our the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they've identified their target, and everyone was pounding the table for Byron Leftwich. And in my opinion, I think that would have been a better hire. But I think they are locked in on Nathaniel Hackett as their next head coach. He's had success there before. The AFC Championship run, his RPO offense was the only time the Jacksonville Jaguars offense has been relevant in, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 10 years. Real quick, Kenny Kirkpatrick from K&K hopping in saying, hey, hello, just for a quick hello. He's at work. Hi, Kenny. We're breaking down the coaching staff. I've given your Giants. So Kenny's a huge Giants fan. I've given them Dan Quinn. Take him, Kenny. Take him away from Denver, please, and tell Kurt that he can have him. Have him. That we don't need him here. You guys can have him. So that's Jacksonville. We're good. The ones that are really hard for me to break down right now, are Miami and Minnesota, because they're kind of barely getting their coaching search running. Las Vegas, but I'm going to do Vegas next. I think Jim Harbaugh is their top target, but we don't know if Jim Harbaugh is willing to leave, the University of Michigan. I think it's unlikely that he's going to. I think they're locked in on Josh McDaniels. And if they're locked in on Josh McDaniels, look out, because that means either Wink Martindale or Vic Fangio's going to be defensive coordinator in Las Vegas. Both kind of were done a little dirty by Denver. So bliss. It's going to be interesting to see how that handles. So I think Josh McDaniels, if Harbaugh decides to stay in the collegiate ranks, I think Josh McDaniels is the head coach of the Raiders. Miami Dolphins. This is a tough one, but I think that they're going to go a veteran route. They've been kind of linked to Raheem Morris. They've been a little bit linked to Todd Bowles. I think they go after Todd Bowles. He's already there in Florida. He's kind of establishing himself there. They've got a really good defense. And Todd Bowles is going to be kind of a more of your kind of, go with the flow. I mean, let's look at what he did with the Jets. I mean, the Jets were on the brink of making the playoffs, not consistently, but they had a couple solid runs under there. And that was a management dumpster fire. Here, he's got a good foundation. He's got a young quarterback already in place. He's going to be able to kind of build this team and use his finances to get where he wants to go with that team. I think he's a great fit. I think he's a great fit for replacing Brian Flores for what they're trying to do defensively. And I think you bring in a guy like Todd Bowles, you're able to calm Xavier Howard down, because you can't afford to lose Howard. We've seen him get disgruntled a couple times over the last few seasons. I think this is a good fit for him to kind of keep that culture in place. DJ, I'm going to go to your Minnesota Vikings next. I think they're impressed with what Raheem Morris over in Los Angeles does. They've been tied to a couple other guys, but once again, Raheem Morris has been around for a while. He's got some interim. He's been a head coach in the interim. He was Dan Quinn's replacement in Atlanta for the rest of that season. I think they value that. He's got experience on both sides of the ball as a head coach, as a offensive coach and a defensive coach. And I mean, he's doing phenomenal things out there in LA. So let me see. I should have been writing these down as I'm going. I got the Giants, I got the Vikings, I got the Dolphins, I got the Raiders. Who am I forgetting? Oh, Texans. Oh, this is a tough one. The Texans, I mean, like, who wants to coach the Houston Texans? I mean, would I quit my day job to go and coach the Houston Texans? I mean, yeah, because I want, all that money, but do I really want to be a part of rebuilding that culture? I mean, the McNairs is a very difficult family to work with. I mean, they don't exactly have the most positive image. But right now, if John Gannon is out there like we're hearing, he's, Wikipedia already told us, hey, John Cannon's the next head coach of the Houston Texans. If Denver doesn't swoop in and try to swoo Gannon away, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna go Brian Flores. I think Flores wants to be a head coach. I think they're willing to pay him. I think Denver swoops in and get Gannon. I think that's who that wraps out my all my guys. Did I forget anyone, Greg? You're my producer. Did I forget anyone? I got all 8. I didn't forget no one. All right. So we'll go through that one more time. Giants, Quinn, Vikings. I'm gonna go with Raheem Morris. Dolphins, Todd Bowles. Raiders, Josh McDaniels. Jacksonville, Nathaniel Hackett. Texans, Brian Flores. Denver Broncos, John Gannon. That's why I'm going with it. At least that's I hope it. And I said this was gonna be my last segment, but I gotta do one more real quick, really fast, because I can love to talk. I'm getting all this interaction. They're making me feel special. Hey Tyler, how's it going? Thanks for joining in. Yeah, once again, so kind of the way I want to wrap it up. If I had my dream scenario with who I would want here right now out of this list, hands down, my number one guy is Brian Callahan. He's got the experience. He's worked with 2 different types of quarterbacks, veteran and rookie. He's seen what a development tree looks like. He's got the patience to work with both. That would be my number one guy. If I could bring him here. So everyone's like, well, if you get Brian Callahan, go get pitcher from Cincinnati. Well, most of the time you see offensive coordinators go, they don't typically bring the quarterback coach with them because the quarterback coach is promoted to offensive coordinator. Sometimes assistant head coach is thrown out there and they get a huge pay raise. They're like, nah, I'm good. I'll kick it with Joey B, not go with you in your project. So offensive coordinator, I would love it if they plucked from the Baltimore Ravens and went James Urban. And I'll tell you why. So like Callahan, he's got a ton of experience working with quarterbacks. But the one thing I value about James Urban as a potential offensive coordinator, well, of course, Callahan's going to be calling your plays. He's going to be the play caller. That's fine. But you got a guy in James Urban who's been able to adapt and adjust his system to fit Lamar Jackson, who we know is not a traditional quarterback. He's shown the one thing that no offensive coordinator in Denver has been able to do since Peyton left. Heck, even before Peyton, I mean, let's be real. Did anyone really try to adjust and adapt to Tim Tebow's strengths? Absolutely friggin' not. They didn't. So, I mean, he's shown that he's able to put his pride away and really dive into what's working for his players. Really focuses on their strengths. Defensive coordinators where it gets tough for me because there's a guy that I think would resonate this defense very well. I think he can relate to them. I think he can bring the heat there, and it's a huge flyer. I think this is an extremely young staff if you go this route, but it's Gerard Mayo. We brought him in, we interviewed him, but the leadership that this guy has been able to demonstrate is there. He may not call a perfect defense. They may be out of line here or there, but he's going to bring that new school defense. He's going to be coming in with some creative blitzes. He's going to really get his guys to play. It's going to be I hate to use it as an example because Vic Fangio, I mean, we've seen what he was as a head coach, but Shelby Harris on numerous accounts really loved this guy. These defensive players on the Broncos valued their head coach for what he could do defensively. I think Gerard Mayo can bring that same energy as a defensive coordinator. Special teams coordinator, flip a coin because I'm not a huge guy on special teams coordinator. You're taught run your lanes. That's what you're taught, But hopefully we get a guy that's not named Tom McMahon to come in and do that because Mr. McMahon, obviously, when he tells these guys to run straight lines, he draws circles or something. I really don't know because special teams isn't one of the hardest things to do or to coach. At least at the high school level, right? I can't talk on the pro level. Maybe one day Broncos will offer me special teams coordinator's job at the very least. But yeah, that's kind of where I would go. I would love to see Brian Callahan get paired with Urban and a guy like Mayo with very young staff, with a very young team. Let them grow together. Find your, if you wanted to go your veteran out, could you go a Mike Zimmer at defensive coordinator? Sure. But that's who I would go with as my dream team. I didn't get a chance to really talk about it when I didn't hit Wednesday's show when they hit the dream team segment. But really, really, really quick. Dave Glassman has asked us to run through the schedule for the newbies. All right, Wednesday night on Rocky Mountain Sports Network. You can catch us on YouTube or our Facebook page, or just type in Rocky Mountain Sports Network on any social media platform, and we will pop up. Even TikTok. I mean, it's kind of bare. I mean, I'm the TikTok savvy one, so we'll see if it gets any better. But Wednesday nights, 6 p.m., we will be going live for 4th and 99 every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. We're talking about possibly a schedule shift. If it is, it'll be announced on the page. Definitely stay tuned for that. Of course, during Broncos season, we'll be on every Sunday for pre and post games. We're also talking a bunch of other stuff. We have a ton of other content. We got the breakdown with me. It's a recorded series. We're going to be kind of shifting to kind of a hybrid where I come in and talk to you guys on this live stream for a while, get your interaction. And all those fun things. There's not really a set schedule on that. We're going to try to just be pumping out content as fast as possible. It's always posted on our YouTube page. It's always posted on Facebook, on Twitter. There'll always be a notification. So if you follow us on those things, hop in. They're really quick and easy videos, usually 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm just giving you a hot take for the day. I'm breaking down some stuff. Now that the head coaching search is over, we're definitely going to be diving into the quarterback search and what that could look like. And then lastly, we have our new scouting show that's going to be set to debuting probably after the conclusion of the NFL season. We'll keep you guys updated on that. Once again, it's going to be a recorded series where we're breaking down just the top prospect, probably short 5 to 10 minute videos, maybe a little bit of highlights, what we, pros and cons, all that fun stuff. So that will be the schedule for right now. If you guys got any more questions, go ahead, send them in real quick. But while I'm doing that, I just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. It has been a blast. I was only planning to do 30 minutes. I'm over an hour. You want to come talk football with me? Come find me on Twitter, Staffiero NFL, Staffiero NFL. Come and find me. Come find me on Facebook. I'm admin in all those Rocky Mountain sports groups. Post some questions in there. Me or my team will definitely be loving. We'd love to have these conversations. We live for it. If I can make this my full-time job, believe me, I would. The other announcement I have really quick is if anybody's interested and they want to get on here and do podcasting or sit in the back, do some production like my buddy Greg here, we're open to it. We're looking for new hosts. We're looking for production crew. We're looking for guys who want to sit down and do research, guys who want to help market Rocky Mountain Sports Network. If you know a company that's looking for a sponsor, send them our way. We'll be gladly to sponsor them to all of our followers at definitely reasonable prices. But that's who we are. We're a startup. We're really working through it. I hope you guys enjoyed what you got tonight. We definitely enjoyed all the interaction. But once again, I'm Matt Staffiero. This was the first edition of the Breakdown Live. So stay tuned for the next one. It'll be posted on our Twitters. It'll be posted on our Facebook page when we decide to do this. I'm going to set up a Q&A with our host next week, possibly if I can get enough participation. But once again, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I think that's all I got for you for now. Thanks, Dave, because I see your last little comment coming in here. Have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.